this is Christy DeBart. You're watching Black Tea News. Hello, welcome to Black Tea News. I'm your host, Christina Barr, and today we're going to be talking about LeVar Burton, who was Geordi on Star Trek. That's where I best know him, but a lot of people know him from reading Rainbow. He was at an event and talked about he wanted to throw hands with Moms of Liberty, and Moms of Liberty is a group of moms. I'm just like, really? Also, Democrats, are you still voting blue no matter who? Because the border issue is so insane right now. And they're now at a point where Mayor Eric Adams is talking about cutting back on needs of the city to unless they get federal funds to take care of all the migrants that have come in and deal with that issue. So if everybody else doesn't pony up the dough, New York is going to be cutting down on police and other things like that. Obviously, that's not good. But there's a crisis on the border because you voted for incompetent people who want an open border and don't want to solve the problem and have said things like walls are racist. So, and I don't think Biden said that, but his press secretary has. So that's the mindset of these people. So they've clearly made a big poo-poo. And I'm wondering, are you still voting blue no matter who? Now, most people will, but are some people going to wake up? Are some people going to wake up? We shall see. So we're going to be talking about that. Also, we talked yesterday about how on TikTok, a letter from Osama bin Laden went viral, and there are people saying they read it and they're having this existential crisis. And TikTok like nuked the whole conversation, whether you were speaking out against those people or whatever. I thought about doing a video, but any video, even like telling these guys off, they're just pulling it all down. Anything associated with the hashtag, anything that they can find with it, I guess they're taking it down. So I guess we'll just talk about it on Twitter and YouTube. But the reason being is because they said it goes against their community's guidelines of promoting terrorism. So I guess on the bigger, TikTok trends really kind of young, but it's not just young people who are on it, obviously. So there are some people still kind of promoting the letter on Twitter, and they're like, well, he's not wrong, but we need to understand the reasons why he said that he did what he did. And some people are pointing back to Ron Paul, when he talked about why Osama bin Laden went ahead and did what he did and attacked America. And guys, he wanted bad things. So we'll talk some more about that. And I found a really good TikTok video that I assume is probably nuked, but it was on Twitter that I want to share with you guys that went through the letter and some of the things talked about it. Because at the end of the day, he did want, because people are like, we were told that they hate freedom and liberty, and that's why they came after us. Well, Osama bin Laden wants us to all submit under Sharia law. So I'm like, yeah, these people still hate liberty and freedom, and they want to use their liberty and freedom to, expand Islam and put everyone in Sharia law. They thought we were the great Satan, and the sort of liberties that we allow in this country do permit people to do things that I find distasteful and that he finds distasteful, and he wouldn't be having any of that if he could have it. And then we export that stuff around the world. So every villain has a reason to justify what they do. That doesn't make them right. But we'll get into more when we actually get into that segment. But thank you guys for joining me. I do apologize for being a bit late, but thank you for being here. Oh, see the comments already hot. Thank you guys for watching. Um, please go to blacktnews.com, check out different content on my website, different articles, different videos, etc. If you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation at blacktnews.com/donate. Cost to stream, run my website, all the stuff. So if you guys can support, I do appreciate it. You guys can check out different merch that I have at the store. This pro-choice men are sus. I'm going to tell the story. I'm going to try to be brief about it. I got to do a little short about this today. Because this did come to mind. The reason why I made this shirt is because sometimes pro-choice men, they be talking and then a lot of people don't make sense, but at least women like are invested in we have the baby, it's passing through our bodies. Sometimes I don't understand these pro-choice men at all and why they're so like invested in it. It just kind of it's suspect. That's what sus stands for. So anyway, today someone I ended up getting into a conversation with abortion with this guy, black guy, and he said, well, he had said that I needed to pay more attention to local policies. And I don't even know because the president can't do, is not the president they alone and blah blah blah. I don't even know why he mentioned that. It didn't flow anywhere from the conversation, and he just did it to talk down to me, I guess. I'm like, I'm very plugged in to to politics, and I mentioned how the local Democrats, they're very excited to be expanding birth control access to women of color. So I framed it. I said very excited about killing black babies, but that's, for being blunt, that's what it is. So and he said that he's not for abortion, but that's, you can't tell a woman what to do. And I said, if you can't tell a woman what to do, do you want to decriminalize everything when it comes to women? So just nothing is illegal if a woman does it. Like you can't tell a woman not to steal, you can't tell a woman not to murder, all that stuff. And then he's like, it's you know, just mind your, it's that what they could, I don't care what they do, they can do whatever, like don't judge them. And I thought his comment about not judging was very interesting, because the reason why this man started arguing with me, it was on my page and in my comments in the first place. The very first comment, my introduction to this man, was him saying conservatives are like Steven from Django. So saying that we shouldn't be judging women, and your first introduction isn't, hello, I have a disagreement with you, let's talk about the issues and why I think your argument is wrong. It's conservatives are like Steven from Django, which I replied, Steven is a Democrat. And then we went back and forth a little bit. He's like, oh no, the people who supported that stuff, but they're actually conservatives, that's ideology. And it's which, I'm like, the same people who supported dehumanizing individuals and robbing them of their liberty are the same ones who do that today. They, it's just abortion. Like it's the same kind of mindset. So I don't accept that. And just a lot of things he was saying just didn't add up. But it got to that. Then he did that shift about the local politics, and then it eventually got to the point of don't judge women. And I'm like, why judge me for my conservatism, and go to that route of Steven, because that route of Steven is to say basically I'm a house Negro traitor. um that's the point of saying stuff like that. And the video, what's funny about it is the video is one that I had about 34,000 views on it, and I did a reply to this really hateful woman, and she was saying that conservatives need to be classified as a hate group. And so I replied to her video, and I said, you're not a conservative, I am a conservative. And two reasons I am a conservative is because I don't believe in racial discrimination, and I don't believe in slavery. And I just described the discrimination thing. Because she had mentioned the Supreme Court, and so I'm in particularly two recent cases. So I'm like, you shouldn't be discriminating people like against Asians to so they be less of them in college. If you want to go by merit, just go by merit. Um, and then so that's the racial discrimination part. And the second part about the slavery, I'm like, I don't believe that the government should be like, you have to bake this cake if you're Christian for this couple if you don't want to do that. For a gay couple, just like I don't think that the government should say, hey, we are compelling you, a gay baker, to make a cake for a conversion therapy camp or something. So it goes both ways. Freedom of expression, freedom of religion, freedom of association for those things. So that's what I said in the video. And in reply, so I'm explaining some of the reasons that I'm conservative, some of the things that I support. You know, I believe in we were talking about conserving Judeo-Christian values, conserving the Constitution, which Frederick Douglass called a glorious liberty document. He writes in there that I'm a Django, or conservatives are not. I'm sorry, not Django. Which we would be the Django of the story, but that we're the Stephen, and Stephen was Samuel L. Jackson's character, who was like the second hand of the plantation owner that Leonardo DiCaprio played. So I just think it's so funny that you're so quick to judge people and basically call them race traitors and racist and all that stuff because they say they're a conservative. But if someone has an abortion and rip their baby to pieces, that's what happens. I'm just gonna be blunt today, guys. It's like, don't judge. Someone died, guys. And we can't at least say, no, I don't think that should be legal. You don't have to. People can have whatever reasons they want for committing whatever crime. That doesn't mean that we should permit them to happen. But so it's not really about judging each individual about why they needed that abortion. It's okay. That person is a human being, and you shouldn't kill them. That's what it's about. But his answer is don't judge them. But he did not have that same energy. So just keep in mind when people talk about don't judge, particularly on the abortion issue or mind your business stuff, they don't mean that in life at all. They mean with this particular issue. So I find their behavior to be sus, and he's gonna make it into another story about pro-choice men are sus. So anyway, that's one of the many shirts that you can find at blacktnews.com. As you guys can tell, my voice is still a little not up to 100%. Still getting over my cold, still fighting it. I'm taking medicine, guys. But hopefully by Monday I'll be in tip-top shape. So if I cough or something, I apologize. I am a human being. Anyway, I do have something funny that I want to start with that was going around. At least I thought it was kind of funny. It was a conversation that The Rock was having with Joe Rogan about Joe Biden. Well, the subject of Joe Biden came up, so I want to go ahead and share that and then share my thoughts. But because I hope he's not gearing up to run for office.
You could have a Republican friend. Like it was no big deal.
Yes.
It's no big deal. Like, oh, Bobby likes George Bush. Who cares? Who gives a fuck? You were a supporter of Bill Clinton. He liked George Bush. Nobody cared. Nobody fuck you. You know, it wasn't like you're a Nazi. Like I'm a Nazi. I just want lower taxes.
What the fuck are you talking about?
How did I become a Nazi?
Dude, it's the craziest thing. I have friends who support Trump. I have friends who support Biden. I have friends.
Do you really have friends who support Biden?
I do. Come on. No. Here's what I do. I have friends. Thank you. That's a good check because that's important. This is important context.
They support the Democratic Party.
I have friends who are loyal to the party.
Yes.
So that's funny. I thought it was funny. I do apologize for all the F-bombs. I forgot about the language and I would have tried to bleep it or at least warn you. But yeah. Funny because they're acknowledging that people don't really like Joe. Sometimes you'll see there's these kids, Harry and gosh, what's the other kid's name? I can't think of the other kid's name, but they're always together. They're paid by a company that's clearly like paid actors for like the Democrat Party or whatever. I don't mean like they saw their photo and they're like, let's hire these kids and teach them some stuff, but they are like paid, you know, influencers and stuff. And you know, they'll be like, oh, we like Joe Biden, or Joe Biden's the best, and etc. Blah blah blah. But nobody like in real life. Well, I don't want to say no one because I don't like to use absurd absolutes because that shows confirmation bias. So I don't like to open myself up to that. So so many people though, so many people though don't like Joe Biden, and he's a hunk of meat flesh that is a Democrat, and many people do not want him to run again. They feel that he's not all there with it. He's not. I don't know how good his health is or isn't, but he's really up there, and he just doesn't have that kind of energy. He doesn't even have the same kind of energy that he had when he ran and debated Trump and all that stuff. So it's a very tiring job. It's a job that ages and wears you down, even as a man in your youth. You see before and after photos of like people before and after their president, and see a lot of gray in their hair. So and some wrinkles and stuff on their face. So even with all the beach days he takes, so I thought it was funny that the Rock's like, okay, I don't really know anyone who supports Biden. They're just loyal to the party. But chuckle, chuckle, chuckle. But let's not forget that The Rock did endorse Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. And he also said that he cried tears, like some man tears. He said manly tears or whatever. So I don't care. I'm not gonna forget that. He also did say, I think it was in maybe the same interview that some people from the major party, he didn't say which one, was talking about him running for office, and that's been floated or whatever around. But I don't know. I think deep down Americans would like some serious sort of governance, and um I don't know how quick we'll be to like, hey, let's jump on the celebrity train. I think I think that's true for, well, I feel that way. But I think on the left, it's on the Democrat side, it's true. I mean, you got your boastful kind of camera hogs or whatnot, you know, like the uh, AOCs of the world and etc. But during 2018, their strategy was like, let's get some milk toast white women who seem like they're not going to be too extreme. And, you know, that's when like Haley Stevens, Alyssa Slotkin, and women like that got in. So I think, you know, they haven't been going a too bombastic route. So I don't know if they're going to be like, vote for The Rock, Dwayne Johnson. That's who we got on the ballot anytime soon. But I think they take just about anybody above Biden though. And they would take just about anybody other than Trump. But, except maybe Biden. It's like both sides are playing chicken with each other. Like, are you really going to run that guy? Are you really going to run that guy? Okay, we're going to run this guy. As long as they're running against each other, they're expecting that the other one can win, you know? So who knows? Who knows? But anyway, to you vote blue no matter who, people. Um in New York, they've had a big problem, and props to Governor Abbott in Texas, who was sending people up to New York, and people are like, oh, this is a big gimmick. It really worked though, sending these people from the border, because why should they just stay on border towns and you know, share the love. You guys are the ones who wanted the open borders. So they sent them to you know, Chicago. They sent them to New York City, and New York City is like packed to the brim. And Mayor Eric Adams has been complaining. The residents have been complaining a lot. But it's being reported now that Mayor Eric Adams, has announced that due to financial impact of ongoing migrant arrivals, the city will have to make budget cuts that will reduce the the NYPD officers to below 30,000 and slash the education department by 1 billion amongst other cuts. He warns more cuts will be necessary unless the city receives more federal money to help with the migrant arrivals. That's crazy. That's really crazy. I got a cough. Excuse me. Oh, I'm sorry. I told you guys I'm still sick. I'm trying. I'm really trying. So the New York Times has reported that. So this is risky. Because I'm assuming the reality is that they probably do have to make cuts. Because they're so stretched. So they probably do have to make cuts. But the idea, if you're a New Yorker and you're hearing that they have to do $1 billion in education cuts, and you have children, and you were born here, your kids were born here, and now they have to suffer because some people illegally cross the border, you're probably TO'd. You're probably very TO'd. So it doesn't look good for the leadership in New York City. Doesn't look good for the Democrat Party. So I would assume this is a push to put pressure on the governor, and also, of course, the legislators on the federal level, their congressmen and Senate, to push this through to get them that money. So we'll see if it does or doesn't happen. But it's a risk. It's a risk for them. I'm so sorry. So I'd be mad. So are you still voting blue no matter who, knowing that they are running your cities like this, that they supported these open border policies? They're obviously not good overall for your community, because now it's digging into your resources, it's digging into your education, is digging into your safety. Having cuts in police in New York City after they've had so much crime, people being stabbed in broad daylight, people being pushed on the subway rails, and I know they made robots or whatever to watch the subways, but what the heck are those robots supposed to do? Just record your murder in 4K or whatever? It'll make a nice story, I guess, on the news with such high quality. But people would prefer to live and survive these altercations and have some kind of law enforcement there to help them. So they have to just wake up and say they need to do something about the border. They need to just wake up, man up, and say, we need to actually solve the problem. We need to build a wall. We need to we need to stop incentivizing people from coming. We need to enforce the policies there, and not just stop. The reason why so many people keep coming in mass, I mean, people have always tried it, but people know that it's wide open. They know that it's wide open. They come to the border and people are like, here's your phone. And that's how they track them, expect them to keep up with their court date. They give them a phone. I don't know at what point they probably just decide to ditch the phone. Maybe they're like, oh, free phone for a little while. But I assume at one point they probably ditch them, and they go where they want to, and they can just kind of disappear. Right. So when it was just an issue for the border towns, nobody cared. So DeSantis did it too, but Abbott, he sends these people to areas where they're like, oh yeah, we're sanctuary cities, cool. So they send them up there, and it gets overcrowded. They start taking up resources. People start realizing they're putting them in buildings, or different schoolhouses, or like there was a story where it's like a place where kids were supposed to be using it for athletics, and they put a bunch of migrants in there, so the community was ticked off. We played that video at the time when that story broke, so people just see that they are quickly becoming second class citizens to people who are not even supposed to be here, and we are not enforcing our laws. So you're going to see a lot more people who are upset about the border and determined to solve it, since it's touching their lives so much. So in New York, if they really do have to make these cuts, and it seems like this is probably announced because it's a game of chicken, to put pressure for the federal government to release a bunch of funds to try to solve the problem, etc. By the way, we don't have money. We just need to solve the problem instead of just paying for it in other sort of ways. We need to just try to solve the problem. It's not going to be solved overnight, but we are extremely just making it worse. It's wide open. And again, they have incentive to keep coming because they don't expect that they'll be turned away. They expect that they'll get there and essentially be released into the interior. Most of these people coming, there's so many young men, young men who are here. You know, and most of them are economic opportunists, which it's America, you can't blame them. But there's also terror threats that have been caught at the border. And it's alarming because you don't know how many they haven't caught at the border. So are you still voting blue no matter who? Because it's going to cost you something if you do. I can't promise you right now that there's a ton of competence on the Republican side, but I know destruction looms on the other side. So let's at least do something about that. Other story I want to talk about today. There is a yesterday, again, we talked about the Osama bin Laden letter that went viral on TikTok, and people are saying they have existential crises because, oh my gosh, I hadn't read it before. I didn't even know it existed. And now I've read it, and he had a point because we're interfering all over the world, and now it makes sense, except for blah, blah, blah. And so some people on Twitter, I see the libertarian sphere sharing what Rand Paul said about it some time ago. Ron Paul, not Rand Paul. Rand is the son. Ron is the daddy. And Rand, once upon a time, did run. And I know a lot of people who are Ron Paul guys want him, so support him. I feel like a lot of libertarian stances are like, I get it in a lot of ways, but I feel ultimately a lot of their ideals are pretty naive. So I'm going to go ahead and play this Ron Paul video, but then I want to play this TikTok video from this guy. He's got some really good content. But I thought what he did in response to the letters was really good. So here's Rand Paul.
The intervention was a major contributing factor. Have you ever read about the reasons they attacked us? They attack us because we've been over there. We've been bombing Iraq for 10 years. We've been in the Middle East. I think Reagan was right. We don't understand the irrationality of Middle Eastern politics. So right now we're building an embassy in Iraq that's bigger than the Vatican. We're building 14 permanent bases. What would we say here if China was doing this in our country or in the Gulf of Mexico? We would be objecting. We need to look at what we do from the perspective of what would happen if somebody else did it to us.
Are you suggesting we invited the 9/11 attack, sir?
I'm suggesting that we listen to the people who attacked us and the reason they did it. And they are delighted that we're over there because Osama bin Laden has said, I am glad you're over on our sand because we can target you so much easier. They have already now, since that time, have killed 3,400 of our men, and I don't think it was necessary.
Wendell, may I make a comment on that? That's really an extraordinary statement. It's an extraordinary statement as someone who lived through the attack of September 11, that we invited the attack because we were attacking Iraq. I don't think I've ever heard that before, and I've heard some pretty absurd explanations for September 11. And I would ask the congressman to withdraw that comment and tell us that he didn't really mean that.
Congressman?
I believe very sincerely that the CIA is correct when they teach and talk about blowback. When we went into Iran in 1953 and installed the Shah, yes, there was blowback. The reaction to that was the taking of our hostages, and that persists. And if we ignore that at our own risk. That if we think that we can do what we want around the world and not incite hatred, then we have a problem. They don't come here to attack us because we're rich and we're free. They come and they attack us because we're over there. I mean, what would we think if we were...
Oh. So I'm sorry. I guess the video was only like two. If you're not verified, you can't have longer videos. So I pulled it from someone on TikTok. But you get the gist, though. That's what they're sharing around. People are saying Rand Paul was right, but I think that's a really naive take because at the end of the day, he wanted us to submit to Sharia law and come to Islam. And they view us as a great Satan. Our freedoms and our liberties do allow some things that I don't particularly like and that he didn't particularly like, that he doesn't particularly think should be in the world, especially since we export it around the world. So to think that there'd never be a time when they'd come for us if we just kind of minded our business and foreign affairs, I don't think that's the case. And also just totally minding our business, I guess. They don't like the fact that we support Israel and he didn't feel like it should exist. He doesn't feel like their land is promised to them. He doesn't believe that they're really the promised ones in the Bible or anything like that. He doesn't believe that. He thinks that all of us have got it wrong, and Muslims believe that Jesus isn't. Jews don't believe that Jesus is a Messiah, but Muslims also don't believe that. They believe that he's a prophet, and they do believe he's coming back again. But they believe he's going to come back again and say that the Christians got it wrong. They don't believe that he was crucified. Forget all the the biblical testimony, but also the outside biblical testimony. There's a lot of evidence, that Jesus lived and was crucified, but whatever. Muhammad obviously knew better, living so long after Christianity and whatnot, and has a better revelation of it all, according to them. But I want to share you guys this TikTok that someone made in response to it. I don't know if this is still on TikTok. As I said at the top of the hour, they nuked like all videos that they could find related to this topic because it was probably making them look pretty bad. And there's reports about it not, I know people are trying to downplay how popular it was trending because they're like, oh, there's only this certain amount on but that's like they're looking at different tags, but you don't have to have tags on something to have it be about a particular topic, so there was a lot of them, and even videos that were in response condemning people saying like he was right or had a point. Some of those got nuked too. This is Savvy had a reply video that was taken down, and Savvy said that she thinks they should just leave those stuff up, so people could just show themselves. People could show themselves. One video that went pretty viral, and I showed you guys could see a snippet of it in the video I showed you guys yesterday. She was a woman who said she hadn't been this conflicted since she had deconstructed from Christianity. Her video, she still has her account. Some people lost her account, but she went private. So I can only imagine what kind of responses that she was getting. She also went pretty viral too because Inspiring Philosophy did a reply video to her talking about because she had said that Muslims also believe in Jesus, and that it's basically trying to say it's Christianity and Islam is basically the same, and that early Christians didn't really believe that Jesus is God, which it isn't true. So he did a good reply to her. So those are the kind of people who are spreading this sort of stuff. But here's his video on the letter, which he did read and has some excerpts in it.
9/11 justified. It took them 22 years to make Americans justify 9/11 and join sides with Al-Qaeda. And all it took was a letter.
I just read Osama bin Laden's letter to America.
Osama bin Laden's letter to America.
Letter to America.
Letter to America.
Go read A Letter to America.
Read it.
Go read A Letter to America.
Go read A Letter to America.
Wow, this must be one heck of a letter, written by the one and only Osama bin Laden. You know, this guy. Oh, I'm sorry, this is before the Islamic Revolution. You probably know him as this guy, the founder and leader of Al-Qaeda. He was the one behind 9/11. In his letter, he explains why he attacked the US. This letter is not new. It's been known for the public for many years, but TikTok decided to spread it very widely yesterday across the United States. Smart move by the country who owns TikTok. Very smart move. But I think even they didn't expect this to go this well, because apparently Americans really like it.
I will never look at life the same.
Blow your mind.
Everyone should read it.
I read through all 8 pages. It's so well written and so reasonably structured.
I'm going through like an existential crisis right now.
Existential crisis.
Again, wow, existential crisis? I got to read this letter. And so I have, all 8 pages. Feel free to do so as well, but anyway, here's the gist. Radical Islam, good. Everything else, bad. Seriously, that's basically it. And in case you were wondering, there were no references provided, no evidence of any kind. That's pretty much a rant. It starts with, the British handed over Palestine to the Jews who overflowed it with tyranny, and this is a crime that must be erased. So just to be clear, the UN decided with the majority of votes to form Israel alongside an Arab state next to it. Regarding tyranny, please compare the Israeli regime with that of Afghanistan, Iran, Syria, or Gaza, and tell me, where did you find tyranny? Moving on, this is gold. It is the Muslims who are the inheritors of Moses and the inheritors of the real Torah. Again, no reference provided. Therefore, the right to Palestine cannot be raised against Islam. Well, I'm an atheist. I don't believe God promised a land to anyone, but archaeological findings do link the Jews to Israel since the 13th century BC. Bin Laden continues, the first thing we call to you is Islam, discarding of all opinions, theories, and religions that contradicts this religion. It is the religion of jihad so that Allah's word reigns supreme. In short, only Islam, radical Islam. Militant Islam. So why attack America? Listen to this. You are a nation who choose to invent your own laws rather than to be ruled by the Sharia of Allah. You separate religion from your policies, contradicting the pure nature which affirms absolute authority to your creator. So basically, we attack you because you're not jihadists. If only we knew. If only we had been given this undisputed information back in 2001. We wouldn't have cried when those planes hit the World Trade Center. We would have been happy. As Americans, we should have celebrated the righteous acts of those freedom fighters who came to liberate us from our civil rights and bring the beloved Sharia law. I'm not kidding, by the way. There is a current trend of showing how happy you were when you found out that Bin Laden died and how sad you are now realizing he was right. Bin Laden was right? Bin fucking Laden? Are you kidding me? You just found out that he attacked you because he wanted to force radical Islam upon you, and you like applaud him? What the fuck is wrong with you? You think you have critical thinking, but the truth is you're just ignorant and insecure. And if this letter gave you an existential crisis, then the crisis was there before. But if you want to switch sides and kill all the infidels, then go ahead. Let's see how Hamas will treat you. Let's see how those peace-loving freedom fighters will do to you if you tweet something bad about them. Oh, and one last thing before you go. If you liked Bin Laden's letter, I have another reading material that you would absolutely love. It's also well written, it's very persuasive, and it gave a lot of people an existential crisis. Enjoy.
So, ooh, excuse me. Very good video. Yeah, you can feel free to read it. The Guardian had an article about it that had posted the whole thing, and because so many people from TikTok were going to and looking at that Guardian article with Osama bin Laden's letter, they ended up pulling it down. Because they're like, there's context and other things like that. They didn't want it to be like the top trending thing on their side or whatever. So they took it down. Again, TikTok like nuked a bunch of videos and stuff. I think it's sad that there's so many people who felt that way and the different trends. But it is incredible how many people just have no clue what that 9/11 was like. And I can't imagine for people who lost people who were in New York and when all that went down. But I remember where I was when I saw the towers fall and when I heard the news and how people were concerned afterwards. And also the patriotism that we had that I don't think we have since had after that attack, to be frank. It was awful. And but there's kids today and they're not kids. I mean, they're younger than I am, but they didn't remember 9/11, or maybe they weren't born during that time. And they get on TikTok and Harry Sisson, maybe it's Harry Sisson. No, Harry Sisson is the one kid, and the other, what's the other kid's name? It wasn't Harry, it was the other kid. There's two kids that um are like paid by the DNC who do videos together, but I can't think of the kid's name. But one of them did a video talking about January 6th, and they said January 6th is our generation's 9/11. And that's just wonka doodles. Just absolutely absurd. To think like that, to say that. So he got dogged so bad that he ended up removing his video. And I can't believe that the Democrat Party is paying those morons for content, but they have a lot of followers, and it's a scary time to think about who has such influence over these young kids online, and that the major parties are contributing to the craziness there. But a lot of people not only don't care, they belittle it and even mock it at times. So I understand if you don't know what it was like, but older people, like it, no one from my generation has mocked Pearl Harbor, or belittled Pearl Harbor that I can think of. I know the internet's bigger now, obviously, than it was, when I was a kid or something, but I just don't, there's that sort of, I don't know, unseriousness about it I don't think that exists. I think that's kind of unique today with this generation. Because they're so bitter about only God knows what. About life and maybe they feel like in some ways that we deserve it. And maybe that's why so many of them have hopped onto the letter to go, oh my gosh, maybe we really did deserve it. Like, we don't justify the violence as death, but kind of. Like, if you're saying you agree with Osama bin Laden, or he had a point. One of the things that alarmed me when I was watching Infinity Wars with Thanos was like, people are going to say he was right. Like, not that he was right, but I could see people going like, yeah, well, yeah, that totally makes sense to just like get rid of half the population on the planet. Like, yeah, totally. If I could snap my fingers and do that, you could always try to, have more resources or whatever, or let life happen and, and not be a mass murderer. But okay. I just knew people would be like, oh, you know what? Thanos was right. And I know it's our thing to, like, I don't know, do the sympathetic villain thing. And some guys, evil is evil. Like, everybody has a reason. The snake in the garden had reason. Like, everybody has reasons. Lucifer had reasons. Everybody has reasons. But evil is still a choice. Right and wrong, we know what it is. We can suppress that truth in our hearts, and then make a choice to do wrong. But everyone has reasons. I'm a writer. I think I write some really good villains and good heroes and other stuff like that. People are very complicated. You know? But everybody's got a reason, whether it's and to make a good believable villain and stuff, you gotta make sure that they believe their convictions. but that doesn't make them not wrong. You know, they're still wrong. So, I don't agree with Ron Paul's take. You can say, oh, it's because we're over in other places. He did list things like that. He listed that we bombed the Japanese, but he did say a lot about sinful things and Sharia law and Islam and stuff. And the truth is, all these people who are looking at the Israelis as if they're the white people and they hate white people because they're the colonizers, etc., etc. But Islam is a very let's go colonize kind of religion. They've done a lot of colonizing throughout the world, and that's how their religion spread. There's peaceful stuff in it, sure. Muhammad wrote that stuff when he was, outnumbered, and when he had some power in an army, then stuff started to get pretty violent. There's a progression of his teachings. So, and I didn't come on here to crap on Muslims today or anything like that, but I'm just there's an ideology behind it, guys. At least on his part, it's not us being in places. Perhaps it gives him the justification to do what he wants to do anyway. And as Ron Paul said, us being over there on his land, he's like, we're glad because we can invite you here. So they have that intention in the first place? Yeah. Yeah, when they get the numbers, sure. They'll do that stuff. So it's really disturbing. The justification that we're seeing today, really, really crazy. Another thing that was really crazy today, we've been talking about Candace Owens the past couple of days and her beef with Ben Shapiro, but Lauren Chen wrote something. And Lauren, I don't know if she's still with the Blaze. She was with the Blaze for a minute. I don't know if she's on her own, but she's tweeted some things that and have been questionable during this time. She's retweeted Nick Fuentes, who's pretty sus at times, and she said something today that was pretty incredible. And I'm trying to find the tweet. So people, someone named Abby Libby was talking about the Holocaust, and she said it's becoming abundantly clear how exactly the Holocaust happened. And people saying that, bringing that up, I can see that, because you had this incredible atrocity that happened, and people are denying that it happened. When people show evidence, they don't believe it. The evidence, they're like, that's AI generated footage and blah blah blah. So people don't believe it. People deny it. People have basically had you kind of deserved it mentality. I mean, it was essentially the Harvard letter that came out, and they're like, oh, we're not for the violence, but we solely blame everything on Israel. No accountability for the terrorists who actually murdered and brutally tortured people. And they see people justifying it and going out and marching and celebrating in the streets and all that stuff. And I've talked about how I have, Jewish friends who people have said terrible things to them. And I did a video, and people in the comments were talking about how they're terrified, and they really appreciated me speaking up and saying some stuff, but they were, talking about not putting menorahs in their window and all kinds of different stuff, and taking down any identifiable things to say that they're Jewish on their homes. There's a lot of Jewish people going out and learning how to shoot and getting guns because they're afraid. And I understand. And even before a lot of the hate crime stuff started to pop up, those stories, I was just alarmed at when BLM Chicago had the image of the paraglider and saying, free Palestine, and people started to push that image, and people started to have the rhetoric of, um, you know, any sort of resistance is justified against an occupier. I'm like, do you guys have any idea what these people did? Um, and it disturbed me because I'm like, if any sort of activity, violence is justified as long as you view someone as your oppressor, which I don't care how much you oppress me. I'm not gonna give instructions to go rape women and be like, make sure you guys do this, like it's in your instructions. The, wouldn't do that. I don't care how oppressed a group is. Um, if you're gonna say all that's justified, and you're talking about racism and all this stuff, and people use the term colonizer all the time, especially on TikTok, against white people and all this stuff. If in America, it's systemic racism and white privilege and whiteness in America. So I'm concerned if they're like openly like cheering on this evil that has happened and they're justifying it. I'm like, what would these people do if they had the chance here? What would they do if they had the chance? And I'm just talking about crazy activists that are here. So I'd be concerned. I am concerned, but my concern would be pretty through the roof if I was Jewish. So Abby Libby saying it's becoming abundantly clear how exactly the Holocaust happened, as far as like the mentality and whatnot. I get that, but Lauren Chen responded, and I thought her response was pretty reprehensible. So she just wrote, laugh my A off here to that comment. And someone said, why do you think the Holocaust is funny? And she said, the Holocaust isn't funny. What's funny is a Westerner believing that anything Jewish people are currently facing is tantamount to the lead up to the Holocaust. And so this is not a good look. So yesterday I played a clip from Candace Owens when she was talking to Ami Kozak, and he was talking about how Hamas, they don't share our same values, and he talked about how they want to wipe out Israel, which is true. They want to kill the Jews, which is true. They've been very clear about it. You can check out their charter, their actual like charter, where they put in documents that they want to kill the Jews, and their officials have gotten on TV and blatantly said, like, yeah, we have a ceasefire. We're gonna kill some more Jews. Like that's what we're gonna do. It doesn't even make sense to us. It exists. It shouldn't exist. It's beyond all logic. Like, we gotta kill it. So it's no secret that they want to wipe them out. And they've also talked about wiping out their friends. So I guess that includes us. And then Candace Owens responded to his comment with, Jews in America are very well off. They do well. And through that conversation, to me, it seemed like maybe she kind of realized what you're saying wasn't like the best thing to say, because she was like kind of mumbling a bit. And he was like, Jews were really well off in Germany too. And then she said she couldn't really take it seriously if someone mentioned the Holocaust, and there are more meaningful conversations that they could have. So when Candace said that was to me, I think, the worst part of the interview that they had. And I don't understand why people are so dismissive of this, because he said all his grandparents were Holocaust survivors. So people know people who experienced these atrocities. It wasn't that long ago. It's like, oh, it's happened in the West. Like, what happened in the West? It did happen in the West. What are you talking about? um, because you don't think it would happen in America? There's a lot of things we didn't think would happen in America. I hope that something that would never happen in America. But the more I guess people think like you, the closer we get to that reality. So I was like, she said some stuff that's been wacky in my opinion, but that was off the rails, I think. So the boldness of that is I don't know, because I don't know how many times I can say concerning, guys. I don't know how many times I can say concerning. Anyway, moving on. Last thing I want to mention, the dude from Reading Rainbow. Um, who I know from Star Trek. I did not watch Reading Rainbow, but I know the theme song, like butterfly in the sky. I can go twice as high. Take a look, it's in a book. Reading Rainbow. I like to mention it on TikTok a lot when someone has like a dumb thing that they say, and I can just pull up a definition and just like say Reading Rainbow, or just have the music behind me and like point to a definition, like what is a fetus or something like that, and have Reading Rainbow play. But I didn't really watch Reading Rainbow, so LeVar Burton, that's not how I know him. I know him from Star Trek, and Jordy is one with the visor, the black guy. We're talking about Next Generation. So he, is still very associated with the love of books and reading and so on. So Publishers Weekly wrote about how he was the host of the National Book Awards, and how he decided to kick off the ceremony. He said, "Before we get going, are there any mobs of liberty in the house? No? Good. And then hands will not need to be thrown tonight." The hands will not need to be thrown tonight. So here's an issue. Here's a tweet for you guys. Go check it out. Mobs of liberty are mobs. Mobs of liberty are women concerned about their children across the country. They got together, they make an organization, and they don't like particular books being in the schools, particularly books that are sexual in nature, like inappropriately sexual. And there are books that are inappropriately sexual, and there's like ideology stuff that they don't want in there too. But like books like This Book is Gay, which has like really explicit stuff in it and instructions. It even talks about how to get on apps to talk to gay people, and I think that's a little disturbing for your a book that's for kids to learn how to do. Take mommy's phone, and well, I don't know, kids don't have their own phones these days, but to get on an app so you can chat with some, I don't know, older man, and who probably doesn't have your best interest at heart if they're talking to a child. So why would we want that book in schools, that book promoted anywhere, or books like it? Why would we want those in the library? Why would that anywhere? So if moms come together to come out against books like that, how is that a bad thing? How is that a bad thing? I was at a convention last weekend, and well, I guess it was just maybe Sunday or something. Someone came up to my table, and they were looking at some of my books, and they looked at my book Super Kid, and they're like, "Oh, well, we were thinking about having our own um event or something, or with different authors and stuff, and have their books, and maybe just not local authors, but they wanted to make sure that they promoted and featured local authors, but they want to do something special. And their quote was, because Scholastic is the devil. And I just was like, and they're like, well, it's because they're against diversity, is how they put it. And I took that as code for they what probably edited out some naughty gay books. Because that's usually what it is when they're like, oh my gosh, they're banning the books. Like, yeah, some books are inappropriate, and you can still buy them. They're not like burned out of existence or something. You can very easily go in some stores if they have them, or order them online, obviously on Amazon and other places, and get them if that's what you want. But some of this stuff doesn't need to be in the school library or in a teacher's classroom. So um the animosity toward mobs of liberty doesn't make sense to me. But a man talking about throwing hands with a woman, with women, like, you can, it's a joke, I guess, but geez, why would you want to present yourself in that sort of way at a book awards? You're talking about throwing hands with some women, with moms. You know, I think that's pretty crazy. Why are why is the discourse so nasty to the point we're talking about throwing hands with some moms? I didn't see if there was video of that, but I hope that wasn't well received. But they what? Oh, look at this comment. Can we just crown LeVar Burton and Dolly Parton the best Americans for life? I mean, I'm assuming they post this as a celebration of his comment? Because that's something that should be condemned. Or did they just do it for the clicks? For the attention? That's not appropriate. That's really not appropriate. So I'm disappointed in Jordy there. I know he's made comments and stuff before, but throwing hands. Just go and reevaluate yourself. Like, seriously, so many people just take a minute and reassess your life. Please reassess your life. Anyway, thank you guys for joining me today. As I struggled through another day with my cold. Thank you for your patience. Hopefully I will sound and be normal by Monday. I promise you I'm taking vitamins and I am taking some medicine. Usually I try to like just power through it. And it but I'm trying. But again, hopefully I'll be I hope, because it's been the whole week. Anyway, thank you guys for joining me. Please go to blacktnews.com, check out different content on my website, articles, videos, etc. If you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation at blacktnews.com/donate, because it does cost to stream a website, all that stuff. So you guys can support that way. Thank you. Please check out different merchandise that we have available at blacktnews.com, like different shirts and mugs and stuff. If you guys want anything before Christmas, as long as you order by December the 10th, it should get there. At least according to the website. So disclaimer, that's what they tell me. So I'm passing along the information. So yeah, go ahead and check out different merch that we have there, and check out some of my books that I have available online. If you go to blacktnews.com and go to the merchandise page, you'll find a banner that'll take you to my book website. But I have 17 that are published altogether. 2 are nonfiction, the rest are fiction. And one of my nonfiction books is, of course, God is Blatantly Against Abortion, which, if you haven't read that book, go ahead and check it out. And it's really, really good. It talks about rights, it talks about science and philosophy, of course, theology, but it's a very well-rounded book on the topic. And if you're like, why did you write it and include the theology at all? Because I saw it was necessary and needed. And even when I don't talk about religion, people want to bring up religion, and then they say the dumbest things. So I decided to debunk a lot of things that people say. And like, what kind of dumb things? God killed his kid, so why can't we kill ours? Stuff like that. Numbers 11 had an abortion in it. No, it didn't. So this stuff like that's in there. But thing talks about also like harder subjects to deal to more that require more time and nuance. Like I cover the exceptions that people always bring up, like if you're sexually assaulted and a child is procreated out of that. And that's, I don't talk about that a lot. I've written a lot of abortion posts and stuff on YouTube and Facebook, but I don't think I've really covered that topic because people are so kind of awful and and don't really want to. It's like they don't respect the seriousness of that particular aspect of this topic, and too many times people just use it as a cudgel. Like they don't even, it's not even part of their ethic. They still believe that you should have abortions at any time, and some people say they don't believe it's a baby, don't believe it's alive. If you don't believe it's a baby and you don't believe it's alive, there's nothing that I can say to you to make it okay to not kill that baby because you don't even think it's alive after a tragedy that has occurred to a woman like that. If you just think it's a clump of cells with no meaning. So we have to get you to the point of knowing that it is wrong to even have that conversation. So I think it's a very important conversation to have. I don't shy away from it, but if you're just using it as a gotcha, it's hard to have a conversation. There's too many people on the internet who do drive-bys who just want to use it as a gotcha, and I think it's a very serious conversation worth having. So I spent a lot of time in the book on that particular topic. So anyway, it's a good, well-rounded book, and I hope you guys like it, appreciate it if you decide to get it. Thank you guys, and I will see you on Monday. Please be safe and enjoy your weekend.